Zoho's announced bottom-up forecasting, Zia AI validation, and custom fiscal year support for Zoho CRM and much more. We'll cover all the Zoho newsworthy announcements made over the last week together. Now, I'm Drew Brockbank, a Zoho consultant and official Zoho partner. And with that, let's get into the news. Involve your sales rep and set sales targets from the bottom up in Zoho CRM forecasts. All right, so whereas previously you had to set a forecast objective or goal for the entire organization, now you can develop that goal from the bottom up by having individuals on your team submit the request for what they think their forecast metric should be. So what that actually looks like inside of Zoho is this. You set up the bottom up metric and you notify users that they need to submit targets. So once you notify users that they need to submit targets, they get a request on their end, they get that notification, then they submit their targets for approval. Now, just because they submit a target doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to agree with it, especially if you're a manager or you're a leader and you know that the goal needs to be more than something than someone submitted. So what you're able to do is you can approve or reject the submitted requests. So this is helpful because oftentimes you want a realistic idea of a forecast, and it may not be best to do that from an arbitrary top-down method where you just come up with you double your goal or you triple your goal and you're like, this seems like something worth aiming for. Sometimes it's nice to ask your team to stretch themselves, come up with a goal, see the combined goal, and then determine if that's the right goal for your organization from a forecasting perspective. So you can now do that inside of Zoho CRM forecasts. All right, beyond months, Zoho CRM now supports custom fiscal year formats. Whereas previously, you had the option to have your fiscal year coincide with the Gregorian calendar, which is from January 1st to December 31st. Now what you're able to do is customize your fiscal year. So this is really helpful in that when you set up your fiscal year, you can choose to customize it. That way it actually matches the fiscal year that you are going by. And we love this because it's not great to be locked into the Gregorian calendar or the traditional calendar year that we are familiar with when that's not actually how you're doing accounting in your organization. So being able to change that on the Zoho CRM front is critical. And so we're happy with that feature here. Now validate Zia insights with your feedback to improve email intelligence. So whereas previously inside of Zoho CRM, if you were to turn on Zia email insights, it would tell you, hey, like this email, they seem frustrated. And in this email, they seem happy. Well, sometimes you don't get the expected result, right? You might read an email and it might seem like they're happy, and Zia might read an email and say that they're sad. So you can essentially submit feedback back to Zoho to help them train Zia's data model. And the way that you do that is first you just got to go to email intelligence and you need to enable this option. So the help Zia option will only be available when the email intelligence feature is enabled. That's in the email settings within Zoho CRM. You want to make sure that you do that. That way you can actually use this feature if you want to. But when you go to the different feedback that Zia has given you, and it'll show you in this GIF, we'll just watch it. You're able to then change the expected value, submit that, send it over to Zoho so that they can study the results, and then they can further improve Zia as an AI. So you can see here, you're able to select help Zia, then you're brought to this page, and then you can choose the expected value, which is what you thought Zia should produce for you. All right, so announcing new features in Trident for macOS. Now, some of you may not be familiar with Trident, but essentially it's a desktop application that allows you to quickly navigate through the different Zoho applications for what they call Zoho Workspace. So I have this post here. This is when they announced that Trident would be available. And like I just mentioned, it's a desktop app with Zoho Mail at its core. And it's complemented by full-fledged instant messaging capabilities along with voice and video calling. So instead of jumping through these apps and jumping back and forth you're able to just have that in one interface. And so you can quickly navigate over to Click, Calendar, Tasks, and all those different applications and features within one interface instead of having to jump through various applications. You have it all in one place. So that's what Trident is all about. Now there's some new features. That's not new. Trident's been available since last year. But here are some new features for the Mac OS version of the desktop application Trident. Now you can create templates and you can also save searches. So you're also able to customize offline sync settings. So to leverage these new features, you just go to check for updates, make sure that Trident's updated, and these new features will be available to you. So you can now manage documents with SharePoint extension in Zoho projects. So SharePoint is a digital platform to store and manage your documents. Multiple users can work on the same document simultaneously, which enhances your team's productivity. By installing the extension in Zoho projects, users can access the documents seamlessly within the project. All right, so once you're in Zoho projects, you're able to click into a task, and then you will see inside of a task, once you install the extension, whereas previously you'd have to jump to SharePoint, have a dedicated folder for the task of the project. Now you can jump into the task itself and you can see the SharePoint extension section, and then you can click into the documents that are hosted in SharePoint and just see them right within Zoho projects, which is great. If you're a SharePoint user, this is awesome. Clone work item, Zoho Sprints mobile app, Android. All right, for you sprinters using Zoho Sprints, that is Zoho's project management tool. If you are not doing waterfall, but you're doing a sprint methodology for managing work, now you're able to clone items in the mobile application for Android. And the details page of parent and sub items within the backlog, board, sprints, and epic modules. This is helpful. None of us like to do the same thing over and over and over again when we can just duplicate it. So you can now access the clone item menu by tapping on the more three dots option available at the top right corner of the item details view. You can refer to the screenshot. You just click on that. You can have the option for clone item now and select that if you need to. All right, for Zoho Workerly, you can enhance your replacement searches with advanced filtering. So if you're managing temporary workers and you have them scheduled for a shift, what you had to do previously is you had to go in to find a replacement. And if you had lots of different people that you were managing their work for, you weren't able to do any kind of advanced filtering. So you had to manually go through and find. So if you had a lot of people that you're managing, it made this very difficult. Now this has been simplified because you can filter by more criteria. What that looks like for you is if you go inside of Zoho Workerly, you were to click on a shift that you wanted to find a replacement for. Now you can go into Refine Filter and you can filter on multiple criteria, and you can use and or logic in order to further filter the different people that you're managing work for. Build your own extensions with Zoho Writer. Well, this is great because when you open up the ability for other people to build extensions on top of an application that you have or on software that you've developed, then we can increase the adoption of extended functionality, and you can have this application do what you want it to do. So if you're a developer and you're interested, now you're able to build your own extensions in Zoho Writer. So this is a great announcement for those Zoho Writer Power users, and for those of you who have always just thought to yourself, I would love to be able to just build my own extension for Zoho Writer, you can now do that. So here is a step-by-step guide for getting ready to do that. If you want, you need to develop your extension in HTML and CSS and JavaScript. You can go to the build an extension section, and then there's some detailed instructions here for how to go about building and publishing your custom extension for Zoho Writer. All right, re-enable the Channels app by the 29th of February. All right, so the Channels app in Zoho Connect helps you to easily access your Zoho Click conversations. Recently, Zoho made changes to the way data is exchanged. So if you're using the Channels app, please disable and re-enable it. That way, you can take advantage of the new way that data is exchanged between Zoho Click and Zoho Connect. Function share. Notify users when sales orders exceed the credit limit. So if you don't know, Zoho will share on a routine basis the different functions to extend the capabilities of different Zoho applications, Zoho Books in this case. So here's a custom function. It's going to tell you how to set it up. And so if you need a custom function to notify users when sales orders exceed a credit limit, then you're able to do that now. Free webinar for building an online store and boosting your sales with Zoho. So if you are already paying for Zoho, why not take advantage of Zoho Commerce as opposed to Shopify or other e-commerce solutions? You can just integrate Zoho Commerce directly with Zoho Inventory and get ready to go on the e-commerce front of your business. There's a webinar for that. And so if you want to access that, that is on the 28th of February, 3 p.m. IST, I don't know what that is for Mountain Standard or Eastern Time, but you can look into that, and I'm sure they'll record it so you can register for it, get the recording afterward. Another webinar for Mastering the Art of Budgeting with Zoho Books, 4th and 5th of March, 2024. If you're interested in that webinar, that's available too. They've announced that. Another free webinar announcement, best practices for deploying and using Zoho Vault. And if you aren't using Zoho Vault, you should very much consider it because it is a great solution for managing the different usernames and passwords that you store across your organization, especially if you need a shared space for everyone to access those usernames and passwords. So check out Zoho Vault. It's a great solution. And if you want to join the webinar, you can do that as well. All right, another webinar announcement here for enhanced appointment scheduling for your business with Zoho Bookings and Zoho Flow. So I went over this announcement earlier, but essentially there's some new functionality there with Zoho Flow and Zoho Bookings. I'm sure that's what this webinar is going to be about. Zoho Bookings would be a great application to use if only it didn't double book. And I tested it recently and it still has that issue, which is so unfortunate. I would love to move over to Zoho Bookings from Calendly, but I just can't at this point. Zoho Creator, free webinar as well. So another announcement for a webinar, Creator Tech Connect series, custom widgets and extensions in Zoho Creator. For those of you who are Zoho Creator power users and developers, you'll want to check out this webinar and get signed up if you want to learn more about custom widgets, extensions in Zoho Creator. Finally, we got some news on the marketplace. So you can now find newly published what's new on Zoho Marketplace articles in Zoho's Marketplace knowledge base. So that's now available to you. You can click into that and you can view what's new on the marketplace in Zoho. That way it's in one place and you don't have to go scramble through announcements like I do to curate the valuable marketplace applications and extensions that are available to you. With that, that is the news for Zoho this week. Thank you so much for watching. And if you're interested in training, we all know that Zoho is very difficult to use. And so what I've done is I've condensed over 3 years of implementing Zoho over 100 different times for 100 different organizations. And after having managed $1 million dedicated to Zoho development and training, I found that there's things that everyone needs to know about Zoho if you want to get the most out of it. So you can go ahead and check out Z Training. It's completely free. I'll link down to it below. And with that, I will see you in the next one.